The wheelie training wheels are an absolute riot. I had no idea how much fun they'd be. Partly because they remove some of the anxiety about what happens when a wheelie goes wrong. Partly because you can get some other people to try wheelies that probably wouldn't otherwise try wheelies.
By the way, you kind of have to ride it like a three-wheeler. That's definitely four-stroke versus two-cycle. Holy! That's not funny.
I've been cruising up and down the street in front of my house with the wheelie training wheels, and now most of my neighbors have, at some point or another, asked me what the device is. And so it's been kind of fun to explain to them the whole process and what I went through and what they are. Some of them want to try it. Most of them are just a little bit fascinated by the whole thing. But all of them are intrigued. For the most part, this design that has really no history behind it other than whatever came out of my cranium has worked out quite well. There are a few things about it that I would change and a few things that I have. I think the wings are too wide. Now that's not inherently problematic, it just adds stability, but it also makes the thing a little bit cumbersome to move around. These fold up so they get out of the way. It's not a big deal. You just have to watch your flanks when you drive through the gate or past a car or near a curb, because the thing is pretty wide. Doing it again, I would narrow this thing up, and I would even consider chopping the thing off right here at the support and mounting the wheel at the end of the strut. That, I think, would be wide enough. That leaves, gosh, it takes a full foot off the outside edge of the wing, and I think it would still be plenty wide. I started out with a static, straight trailing wheel on the rear brace. The idea was that there's not much weight on that back wheel, so having it slide back and forth as you turn is not that big of a deal. And I wanted the extra stability. Well, in the end, I found that the whole device was pulling a little bit to the left. You'll see as each wheelie happens that the whole thing ends up turning left as wheelies occur. I could tell from the alignment that it was slightly off. So rather than try to get the thing perfectly straight, I built out a little bit of a pivoting trailing wheel. That helped the pull, so now it tracks much straighter, but it created a whole different problem. We'll talk more about that in just a minute. I added a limiter cable. And the idea here is that it would prevent the bike from entirely looping out, which I'm not sure it would do anyway, because, and I tested this in the beginning, the rear fender contacts the plywood on the backboard and stops the bike from looping out that way. Now, I needed to do something a little different because this fender was already on his last leg. It was broken 90% of the way through, hanging on by a couple of strands of plastic on each side. Because the plastic was broken already, I knew that it wouldn't support much if the bike were to fully loop out. And I wanted something just a little bit more rigid. So I added this member. It's bolted on. It sticks out far enough forward that the vantage point is in place such that I can now just grab the foot peg with this cable that is set to where it will allow the bike to go just barely beyond the 12 o'clock position. It'll stay there. With no rider on the bike, it holds and stays in that position. But in theory, this makes it so the bike won't loop out. Now, I had never really tested this before because I always get on the brake quickly enough that the limiter strap wouldn't be an issue. But it did get tested. My brother, who's actually a pretty good wheelie artist, came and tried the training wheels after the limiter cable was installed. And he knew the limiter cable was installed, and so he knew that he could rely on it. Well, Jerem is seen wheeling here, comes up against the limiting strap, and as he does so, you can see the whole thing torsion and bend as all of the weight and the leverage goes all the way against the spindles, pulling on the front, pushing down on the back, causing the back to collapse a little bit, bending this joint just slightly, and in the end, completely breaking the nut free off of the cage, leaving nothing to support the bike or Jerem, and everybody goes crashing to the ground. Now the good news is everybody's okay. We learned a lesson from it. This is a weak point that I completely overlooked, and I've since remedied that by putting two nuts side to side with each other, giving some additional width, which means that there is additional support from the cage on those nuts, and there is additional surface area to get a really good solid weld. Admittedly, the original weld wasn't all that thorough. So we're in good shape there. And I know that the double nut fixed the problem because Jerem replicated almost the exact same maneuver once again, this time in the parking lot, and the cage didn't give. Instead, I got a good laugh out of watching Jerem chase the motorcycle around in circles as he tried to figure out how to intercept what is now an idling motorcycle in first gear, front wheel in the air, that won't come down. It just sat and went in circles, and he chased it around until he finally figured out how to get the thing to drop. Anyway, structurally now we're in good shape, I feel like, through here. The cable limiter seems to be working well, and if I can simply add a little bit of rigidity, primarily to this section right through here, and secondarily to the tail wheel in the back, we should be in good shape. I'm thinking if I create a triangular shape to support that, coming to the cage and back to maybe halfway up on the rear support, that we'll be able to remedy that problem. The second problem is the tail wheel. I don't like what I've constructed back there. It's too wobbly, it's not strong enough to support it. So I went to the Harbor Freight and I found a pivoting caster wheel that I think will be just perfect for the job. I am dealing with the remnants of steel. So we'll go back in the corner, grab what little pieces we got left. Some of them are looking pretty sketchy, but they'll do the job. They just need some cleanup and some paint. Yeah. Perfect.
Oh, that feels so good.
Not enough.
There you go.
How many fingers do you have on the clutch?
2.
Okay, I've been just running the one.
Your middle finger? What?
You might actually need these training wheels.
No, come on now. It worked.
You got me beat. I failed.
That's it.